Today, on 69 Minutes, we will be interviewing the tech influencer that is sweeping the nation, starting his humble business in the sewer system next to his homeless camp, and then cultivating said business to millions of followers. Two Wheels Use Tech, it is a pleasure to have you on. Thank you, Jeff. It is a pleasure to be on. I actually watched your show growing up, believe it or not. Oh yeah, how about that? Yes, when I was able to purchase my first television by scraping together the pennies that I made in my pigeon training courses, I finally bought a television, and the only channel that I could get was yours, so really didn't have much of a choice. Well, we value every viewer, no matter how they come to us, but I'm sure our audience is much more interested in your story, Mr. Use Tech. Please, Jeff, call me Two Wheels. My apologies, Two Wheels, but what would you say you attribute your success to? Well, I think rather obvious ones are hard work and dedication, having a good drive, but I think the most important thing, the one piece of advice that I would give to anybody above all else is So today is the long-awaited Q&A video. I'm sure all of you have been clamoring for weeks on end to see me blather on about questions that you probably don't even care to hear the answer to. But without further ado, I'm going to kick off into them. I apologize if you've heard these answers before, but I've gotten these questions multiple times. I've answered them kind of patchwork throughout all my videos, so I thought it'd be much better to consolidate all of the questions that I get on a regular basis into this so I can refer to people whenever they have that particular question. Also, quick side note before I get into it, these answers come from YouTube comments, emails, customers that I have. If you have any other questions of this nature that I do not answer in this video, feel free to shoot a comment down below, email me, whatever you want to do. I will be happy to answer any question that you have. So our first question is, do you list prices higher so that people will barter, or do you just straight up be fair and list the right price to save the trouble? Generally, when posting an ad, I'll probably post it a little bit higher than I'm okay with getting in the end. We'll say maybe like 20 to 40 bucks higher, or if it's at like 280, I might just round it up to 300 and then be, okay with being talked down to 280. This does two different things. It allows people that have that need to barter to feel like they're getting a slightly better deal. And then also, if you are underpricing your computer by trying to be as competitive as possible, like usually what I do, I will try and get my asking price as low as humanly possible. That way it's more appealing to more people. Then if I am kind of messing myself up by asking too low, then if I ask that amount and someone buys it, then it shows that I might be asking too low for the computers and so on and so forth. But short answer, yes, I do mark up ever so slightly to allow bartering or just getting slightly more than I was asking for initially. Our second question, how much do you profit from an average build? I answered this in the how much money do I make video not too long ago, but I aim going into a project usually to make about $100. There's a bunch of stuff to consider, gas, parts, time spent, Microsoft codes, that kind of thing. And then I usually end up making anywhere between $150 to $250. Whenever I am dealing with a customer that is customizing a build through me, like they're telling me what parts they want, I build it for them and then sell it to them, I generally do a charge of $150. The reason for that being slightly higher than the computer that I build and sell by myself is there's a lot of communication that I have to put time into. There's a lot of questions and answers. It's mostly the extra time of getting a customized, exactly what you want computer versus just buying one that I've built previously. So, what is the lowest spec computer you consider buying? I guess this is probably buying and selling. I'm going to answer that in that way. Usually I don't want to mess with computers that can't deliver a 1080p, 60 FPS kind of range, or anything above that. If you're getting into older cards that have like 2 gigabytes of VRAM, or the processor's slow, or like a dual core or something of that nature, then you're getting into like super low 1080p or like medium 720p, and I don't consider that a decent gaming experience in the year 2020. Anything below 1080p really isn't that appealing to customers anyway. No matter how low you can get that price, like let's say you're selling this computer for like $200 or $250, I imagine your margin of profit is pretty low down in those low range computers. Obviously there's less risk, but the risk doesn't really concern me because I'm just slamming my head through walls, just trying to get things done. So yeah, I would say anything above 1080p, 60 FPS, and off the top of my head, that's like a RX 470, 570, maybe a GTX 970, 960, maybe some like higher end FX processors, and then like 3rd gen Intel is probably like the lowest I'll ever go. Unless there's someone specifically asking for like a really, really budget build that just wants to like play RuneScape or something. But yeah, that's about as low as I would go or that I'm interested in. So hopefully that answers that question. How long does it generally take you to buy enough parts for a build? In other words, how often does a nice deal come around for you? So this is definitely two different questions. I'll do the first part and the second part. How long it takes to get parts for a build? That's a really large chunk of time, and there's also multiple projects going along each other. So I'll end up with a computer, and I might just need like a good graphics card to put in it. And so I'm kind of just like, and out of the corner of my eye, waiting for a good graphics card deal to put that in there. And that could be a day, that could be a week, it could be a month. Usually not that long. I'm not that patient. But if I'm building like a whole system from scratch, usually I have like a budget. I'll set out a budget, and then I have a bunch of like saved searches and different avenues of getting things. And I wait until a part I need falls on that budget, and then I buy it, and then so on and so forth. I would say I probably don't keep a computer around except for some extreme cases. Extreme cases? Is that what I said? Extreme circumstances. Jesus. Except for extreme circumstances, usually I don't have a computer for more than a week or two, or like working on it as a project. And then anything that doesn't sell within a week, I get really antsy about. So usually they're gone by a month or less. So that's that part of the question. What was the second part? How often does a nice deal come around? This is obviously a very vague question as well. Not vague, but hard to pin down, I guess is the better term for it. Sometimes I get really, really incredible deals. Like the one deal that everyone likes to point out is the 3 RX 570s that I got for $30 each, which is just astronomically low. That is probably like a once in 4 or 5 month deal, that kind of thing. Like the pawn shop PC kind of stuff, or like the garage find kind of stuff, I usually can get about one of those a month, give or take. Sometimes I get 2 a month, sometimes I get none. Those are like deals that I get kind of happy about, kind of excited about. They make me smile, and I talk about it with my friends and stuff. Long answer short, I usually, because this is me checking stuff every day, pursuing every avenue, lead, string that I can find on deals, is about once a month. I'll get a really nice deal, maybe 2 times a month. Besides that, it's just kind of getting little like $5, $10 deals here and there. They're not all that exciting, but are very necessary to cutting down your expenses. How have you been keeping track of your sales? I'm going to be doing a focus video on this next, I believe, so a lot of the questions around this will be answered in that one, but I'll do a brief little answer here, as long as I will also link that video whenever it gets put up. I use Google Sheets for all of my number upkeep, like what I have in the inventory, what I've bought and sold, when I sold it, what's my average monthly stuff, all the graphs and charts that you've seen periodically in my videos. That's all Google Sheets. That's really all I use. Physically to keep storage, drawers, shelves, desks, tables, closets, normal physical storage kind of things. Hopefully that answers that, but again, I'll answer that in much more depth in that future video. Where do you recommend potential buyers meet you to check out the machine? Do you have them come to your house or no? I try my best to not have random strangers come to my house, specifically for the reason that I have no idea who these people are. If I don't like them and I don't sell to them, or whatever happens in that transaction, which hasn't happened yet, cross my fingers, then I don't want them knowing where I live, obviously. So when people message me, they're like, I want to see the computer working before I buy it, which is understandable, but a little bit obnoxious, I gotta say. I'll generally offer to send them a video of the computer working and like posting on a monitor, and I'll like show the computer, show the wire running to the monitor, and then show the monitor, and I'll like click through the specs and stuff. And that usually appeases most people because not a lot of people are going to go through the effort of faking that for a potential sale. So generally, if you're having people asking about wanting to see it working, then I would offer that. And then if they still are very forceful about coming to your place to see it working, it's really up to you. I don't recommend it. I've done it once before. Yeah, it's iffy. My end advice is don't bring people to your house. Try and meet in like grocery store parking lots, gas stations, strip mall parking lots. Usually parking lots is a pretty nice one. Like big open parking lots that have enough people around that like if something happens, you can scream out. But it's not like hard to find the other person. Walmart parking lots are usually pretty good for this kind of thing. Those are generally where I make most of my sales. So hopefully that helps. Where do you get your Windows keys from? Very easy. SCD key. This is not a sponsorship. This is not an endorsement. They might be the shadiest people I've ever met. I have no idea. I earn no money by giving you this link, but this is the link to where I buy my keys from. Yeah. Don't recommend them, but that's where I buy them. So, just to clarify, you started with 100 USD. If not, how much did you start with? Shloop. No, that was the end of the question. Yeah, so technically I started with 100 USD, but realistically, I bought that first deal, and I had these cards, and I was thinking about either selling them as parts, because I bought them for 30, and I could probably sell them for 70. So I could have gone that route and made 40 bucks off of each, ultimately making 120, and then having that $220 to reinvest. But I decided that I wanted to put them in computers, earn a little bit more off of each card, and then sell them that way. So the first computer that I bought to put the card in, ultimately, when all was said and done, that's the term, Jesus. I was about 3, 4, maybe 5 in the hole. It's kind of hard because I was also selling other parts during that time, and buying other things at that time. But I would say overall, probably invested 300, maybe 400 in my first flip. And I wasn't really profitable until my second flip or third flip. Because again, I kept buying parts and increasing my inventory value over focusing on profit. But once I finally got my profit up, it's very easy to keep that going because your inventory kind of self-refills if you're buying and selling at a normal rate. So I would say at the end of the day, 300, 400 bucks is about what I invested to start off. In respect to Craigslist versus Facebook Marketplace, which one do you personally prefer of the two and why? This is a very long topic that I could blather on about and probably no one's interested in, so I'll try and condense some of my big points into small spark notes. Facebook Marketplace is great, but I hate it, and Craigslist is great, but no one uses it. Facebook Marketplace has a huge population, much bigger than Craigslist. They have like every user under the sun because it's Facebook. But with that, it is saturated with really annoying ads, spam stuff, it's generally more clustered and hard to navigate through Facebook Marketplace. And also, whenever you want to search something or look something up, it doesn't retrieve exactly what you want like Craigslist would do. It tries to kind of feed you stuff that it thinks that you want because it wants you to buy more, obviously. The nice thing about Facebook is anytime you have a buyer, you can put a name and a face to a location. This sounds weird, but you know where they live. You know they have a life. You see their kids in their photos and stuff. So you know that it's not some really, really weird person. Like Craigslist, you're meeting anybody. You have no idea. You've never seen their face. You don't know if they're telling the truth. You have absolutely no idea. And that can scare some, but I've had no real bad interactions on Craigslist. The only bad interaction I've had is on Facebook, of all places. So Facebook has its pros. Craigslist has its pros. The one thing that really puts one in favor of the other is Facebook. I've sold probably 90% of my stuff through Facebook. I've had more of my business interactions happen over Facebook. I get people referred to me on Facebook. So I have to basically be like Facebook is the better one to pursue if you're trying to pick one or the other. But I post on both. I try and spread my ads out as much as possible. So I would post on both. but Facebook Marketplace is probably going to be the more successful venture if you had to pick one or the other. So, could you do X video? I get a multitude of these comments. I appreciate them. I certainly do. But usually the answer is I will put them on the list and I will get to it eventually. So if you have that sort of question, I'm sure you probably aren't going to see this video and you aren't going to read any of their comments. You'll probably just comment that and wait for a reply. But I try to get to all my videos. I'm a little bit lazy sometimes, so just be patient. I'll get to it eventually and answer whatever questions or topics that you want me to cover. How the hell did you find 3 RX 570s for $100? Question mark, question mark, question mark. No, there's only 2. I lied. Sorry. Too much emphasis. Anyway, my generic response to this is a lot of patience and a lot of luck. But a more kind of in-depth explanation of that is I check deals every day, multiple times a day, probably like every hour or two. I scroll through Craigslist, I scroll through Facebook, I scroll through eBay. So I'm almost nearly the first or the second person contacting people when a good deal is posted. That helps a lot. That's really probably most of the legwork, but then also just being lucky sometimes helps. Sometimes you catch them in the right mood. Sometimes you're the first to catch someone. Sometimes you're the only one to really look at the post. Like maybe it doesn't have a picture. Like you're the first one to actually click on one because it didn't have a picture. It's a bunch of different things. But if you go at it long enough, you'll get deals like this. You certainly will. But you have to be very persistent. You have to be really on the ball. And that's most of it. And then being lucky is obviously another good chunk of it. But yeah, that's how you do it. Do you think I can flip as a 14-year-old boy? 14 years old boy. I get questions like this. They're varied a little bit. Like I'm 14 or I live in Sweden or, I can't drive or I live in the country. X is blocking me from flipping. Can I still flip? The motivational speaker in me says yes. You can always find a way. You could focus mainly on doing eBay and like internet sales, which is much harder, but a lot more volume. You could, go scrounge away, make a lemonade stand, save up some money and start flipping if you're 14 and can't get a job. If you can't drive, then maybe you can set up some sort of like ghetto shop of like, you have to come to me, I can't meet you kind of thing. There's a bunch of different ways you could work around it. You could get creative. But ultimately the answer to this is you have to have the drive to do it. And if you do have the drive to do it, then nothing should be stopping you. And that's basically up to the individual. So I will end that with, yes, you can. Is it worth it? Up to you. So, but I think that is the end. That's all the questions I have. That will be the end of the video. Again, if you have more questions I didn't cover, feel free to ask those. I will gladly answer them. And then if there's more built-up questions, I can make another Q&A. But I thought it was about time that I answered some of the very repetitive questions that I got. So if you learned something and you had your question answered, leave a like. If you think I'm nerdy and I talk way too much, then leave a dislike by all means. If you want to hear more of my nerdy PC flipping adventure, hit that subscribe button. I will try to keep you around to the best of my abilities. So without further ado, have a good day, guys.